Hello, my friends. Welcome to Reddit Therapy. You fire me for stealing, I steal your business. My nephew, Bob, had a job selling cell phones at a store in a mall. The store was owned by a licensed distributor of one of the big-name brands. He was very good at convincing customers to buy calling plans, extended warranties, and accessories that were obscenely profitable. Pretty soon he was the #1 salesman in the store. The owners asked him to transfer to their other store in a different mall, replacing the assistant manager who they had just fired. In addition to an increase in his base pay, he'd get a cut of every sale made while he was in charge. It took him about 2 days to figure out why sales were down. Clueless sales reps and lousy management. The manager would disappear for hours at a time, leaving the sales reps to sit around ignoring customers. Most of them would show up late, leave early, or not bother coming in at all. And when they did speak to a customer, they had no idea how to make a sale. On his first day he outsold them all. After making sure the guys on his shift were actually doing their jobs, especially when it came to selling the high-profit add-ons, the store's sales improved. The store manager saw what was happening and wasn't too happy. He knew it was a matter of time before he was kicked out and Bob took his job. One day they received a shipment of new phones. As usual, Bob signed for them and locked them in a storage closet. The next day was his day off. The manager called and insisted he come in immediately because there was a problem. Overnight someone had broken into the store and stolen about 100 of these brand new phones. The mall security camera showed 2 people driving up to the back door, opening it with a key, shutting of the alarm, and walking out with the phones. The police were called. He was grilled by the police for a couple of hours, but they had no evidence against him and he had an alibi. But the manager convinced the owners that Bob was probably involved since he had signed for the phones, had keys to the door and storage closet, and knew the alarm code. Bob argued that they hadn't changed the locks or code after they fired the previous assistant manager and anyone could know about the shipment. But he was fired. Actually, they allowed him to resign. And they stiffed him on his last commission check. At the other end of the mall was a store that sold phones for one of the competing cell companies. They knew that since he had joined that other store, their sales were suffering. They hired him on the spot. Sales improved overnight. One of his favorite tricks was to stand in front of the store and wait for a customer to walk by carrying a shopping bag from that other store. He'd chat them up about their brand new phone, calling plan, warranty, etc. It's amazing how much the average mall shopper is willing to share with a stranger. Then he'd tell them that they probably didn't need the extended warranty and those accessories could be purchased at Walmart for about half the price. And he could sell them the exact phone with better plan for less money. If they agreed, he would walk them back to that other store and tell the clueless sales rep how to avoid that sale he just made, then bring the customer back to his store to pick up their new phone. It took about 3 months before that other store closed its doors. Karen tries to withhold benefits and doesn't like the consequences. I used to have a veteran's disability pension (VDP) for a hearing defect. It's now merged with my state pension. It was small and back home was paid annually. However, I moved to the UK and this pension was still paid by my government, but now administered by the UK DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, who paid it fortnightly. Some years ago I was entitled to a disability allowance, DA, because of various issues. At the time I was diagnosed with diabetes, but was trying to control it with diet. So I got called into the local job center for an interview. Unfortunately, I had a Karen for an interviewer. I'm on the spectrum, but I'm high functioning. This means that I don't suffer fools gladly and I can be very rules bound. Firstly, she questions why I hadn't declared the VDP as part of my earnings. I had, but it was in another part of the form. Then she said that I couldn't have diabetes because I wasn't taking any medicine, and as I was telling Porks, she would not allow my claim. Now the DA claim had nothing to do with my diabetes. However, she was stupid to put in her letter of rejection that I hadn't diabetes because I wasn't taking any medicine for it. She also said that they would no longer pay my VDP. I sent a copy of the letter to my High Commission, who said don't worry, they would deal with it. I handed a copy of the letter to my doctor, who was incensed. She complained to the DWP asking about Karen's medical qualifications. So I got asked to have another interview about 1 p.m. on a certain day with the Karen. I said that I couldn't guarantee to attend on that day as I had another appointment that morning. The message back from the Karen was if I didn't attend, my claim would be refused. So going with the flow, I said that I would try to attend, but I might be a little late. So I have my morning appointment, go home, change and toddle off to the job center. I get there on the dot at 1 p.m. only to find that the Karen had booked an interview room on the first floor instead of the ground floor. There is no lift. To cut a long story short, it took me nearly 15 minutes to haul my sorry ass up those stairs, in the end being helped by this guy in a suit who asked why I was trying to get to the first floor. I told him that I had an interview and that the Karen who was seeing me chose the room. So I get to the room and Karen says, "You are late, I am refusing your claim unless you have a very good reason." So I said to her, "Well, my day has been interesting. You were warned that I had an appointment this morning and because of it I might be late. Karen, I want you to tell me about this appointment and exactly what happened to make you late." Me, I turned up at the appointment this morning, took my clothes off and then had two nice young ladies slather my meat and 2 veg with lub. They then proceeded to do things to said meat and 2 veg. They then got me to lie down on my side facing the wall, and one of them proceeded to stick her fingers up my ass. "Karen, how dare you talk such filth in front of me? Your case is closed." Suit, who was listening out of sight, "Excuse me, Karen, but you did ask him to tell you about his appointment and exactly what happened to make him late." Suit to me, "How did your prostate examination go?" Me, "More tests, unfortunately." Suit, "And was that the reason you were late?" Me, "No, the stupid bitch was being vindictive and interviewed me on this floor instead of the ground floor. She knew my claim was because I had breathing problems and couldn't climb stairs. I think she would have claimed that is I made it to the first floor I was lying and refused the claim." Suit, "I think you are right." Suit to Karen, "You will approve his claim as I had to help him up the stairs and based on my observations he qualifies. And you and your manager will report to me tomorrow at 9 a.m. in my office to explain your actions. If you are late you will be terminated." Karen, very white-faced, "Yes sir." Turns out he was an area director that the DWP had sent in to investigate the high level of complaints about that job center. It also turns out that a complaint from a high commissioner about breaching an international agreement is a big deal for the DWP. Who knew? Don't want to pay for my work? Thank for your giving me your brand. So this is my first real post, so sorry if I make spelling mistakes or something, as English is not my first language. TL. Drive at the bottom BTW. I do not know if this classifies as nuclear, so I am just going to leave it here. This happened some years ago to my father. He is the owner of a prestigious law firm in my country and he did a job for a very well-known company in my country and he was owed about $2 million American. Seems like much, but it was well worth it, as he defended the company for many times that in fines and they would have gone bankrupt. After he finishes his work, the company doesn't want to pay him in that moment but politely tells him to wait. A year passes by and none of his calls gets a response, but him being a smart man and a lawyer sees what can he do. The setup. My father sends one of his associates undercover with the company owner to befriend him. Important later. Then he calculates how much will they owe him with interest and all, and then he just waits a few years to make interest grow. The associate he sent befriended the owner and tells him that he is a lawyer and has friends in the government. He told him that he should deposit money into the company's bank account, as he knew there was going to be an investigation for tax evasion. In the country, he had his personal bank account, as he had worked in that country in the tax collecting branch some years back and were already investigating him. And so foolish him, he actually deposited all, and I mean all, of his personal accounts into the company's account. The revenge. His associate informs my father where the money is and then tries to contact them one last time and they don't respond. In my country, if someone doesn't pay another after some time, they can do an embargo, which is basically taking whatever money he is owed, either in assets, furniture, money in the bank, etc. And so with the interest he is able to embargo the majority of company stores, and as the embargo is happening he can't use his bank account as it is frozen, so basically no lawyer, because the bad word spread about him not paying. And so with the majority of their stores now in my dad's name, their stock prices fell dramatically, and with the money my father got from the owner's bank account basically bought the rest of the company about 70% off. The aftermath. The owner. Now the owner couldn't take his money from the company, as that would be embezzlement, and if he told anyone that that was his money he would get arrested for tax fraud, and part of it was used to try to keep the company afloat while they weren't getting any sales, so he basically became homeless. My dad. He now owned a famous brand and got it working normally after a few years, and his associate who helped him was now the CEO of the brand. So remember, kids, always pay your lawyers because they know better. Drive. My father was owed a lot of money by a brand who didn't pay him. He became the owner of the brand. Obligatory first silver THX.